Hello and welcome to Industry Insight Sessions. My name is Amos Madra, and we're here at Changing Education. Get to speak to you and get to speak to employers about different careers. With me today, I've got Kevin Rogers, and Kevin Rogers is a solicitor from Wilson Browne Solicitors. Just to tell you a little bit about Kevin, Kevin himself started off 17 years ago in this industry. 2001, to be specific, was when he joined Wilson Browne Solicitors. He advises on complex commercial disputes for local and national clients, with particular emphasis on breach of contract, shareholder and partnership disputes, together with professional negligence claims. So he's a very busy man indeed. And Kevin, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to sit here with us on this Industry Insight Sessions. A great opportunity for young people to learn about the world of work, where they can get pearls of wisdom from employers like yourself. So Kevin, a very warm welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. Thanks for that introduction. Hi, everybody that's watching. I don't know about pearls of wisdom, but look, I'll do my best.
So, Kevin, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started,
Sure.
and the whole Wilson Browne story?
One thing that I would like to make sure people take away, if nothing else, from my time with you all today, is that you don't have to decide your life right now. You know, you've got time. Yes, I'm a lawyer, and today, because of lockdown and the way the world has changed, I'm not wearing a tie. I'm often in a suit and tie, sometimes in those silly outfits that lawyers have to wear to court. But I've been a milkman. I've been a security guard. I've worked in bars. I've worked in restaurants. One of my favorite jobs ever was working at Carpetright as a carpet salesman. All of your experience is relevant, and I think that all of that experience has fed through to me. I did go to university, I did go to law school, but all of those jobs along the way, I could have seen career paths in many of them, to be honest. But yeah, I wanted to give university a go. I realized that I wanted to put off going to work for a bit, and then I wanted to put it off for a bit longer. So I went to law school and realized that I was all right with it. And I've ended up working in firms in Salford, in Manchester, London, and now Northamptonshire. You were kind to me. I must look a bit younger than you think. I've been doing this since sort of 1997, off and on. So 20 years a lawyer. Wilson Browne Solicitors is a large regional practice. We've got 6 offices, and I'm what's called the chairman or managing partner.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. By the way, guys, send us your questions. We'll get that through to Kevin. This is a live one, which is different from the way we usually do it. So this time you guys are in control. It's yours. Get your questions in and we'll get that through to Kevin. So did you always want to be a lawyer, Kevin, or is this something, how did you get to that point from security to Carpetright, all these different jobs? How did you end up in law?
I think for me, my dad, and this is another thing about, you know, lawyers, doctors, accountants, all these professions that people see. A lot of people think you're born into it. My dad ran a market stall. I'm one of 5 children, and I remember, you know, getting up very, very early, working on the market stall with him. And it was about people, and I wanted to help people. And when I was about 14, 15, there was an old, you know, lawyer program on TV, like a drama series. No one watching will remember it. Maybe the teachers will, called Rumpole of the Bailey. And like any drama, you know, what you see on telly isn't real life. Loads of jobs have boring bits to them. Loads of jobs have exciting bits to them. But I was attracted to the law. I wanted to join the fire service. Very, very nearly went through all of the steps to do that. And at the last minute, I swerved and thought, no, I will go to university because I had an offer of a place. And then that was the path that followed. I went down the more natural path then. But those other jobs were in and around it. I very nearly left university, which would have been, probably shouldn't say it, but it would have been fine. But I didn't. I stayed on and then followed the more traditional path into law through law school. Did I always want to do it? No, not really. I thought I did when I was 14, but you guys watching, when you're 14, some of you still think the same. Some of you changed your mind. I think that's fine. That's fine as well.
Okay, and that time at law school, was there a specific type of law at that time that you wanted to go into, or was it? I mean, when you speak to a lot of young people that want to go into criminal law, was that what you were thinking, or was it all this commercial law that you wanted to go into?
For me, everybody, it's really difficult when you go to law school. For me, I'm not from a legal background. And I went to a university that was an old polytechnic, so it wasn't, a classic top university or anything. And I'm not knocking those at all. And I want my children to go to them if they want to. But the thing was, I wanted to do corporate law because I thought that was very exciting, and I'd seen it on the television. I didn't really know what it meant, but all the corporate lawyers must have loads of money and flash cars and big houses. I didn't really know what it meant. And I know lots of corporate lawyers now. It's not an area of law for me at all. But also I thought I'd be working in the very heart of London, with one of the top 2 firms in the world. And I was in for a rude awakening because, those jobs are really, really sought after. And I'm not saying don't follow your dreams, because many of my friends did. But what the process showed me was that unless you had a certain grade, and unless you come from a certain university, and unless, you had this history, those jobs were very, very hard to get. And also, did you really want them when you looked at them? Do you want to be working 72, 80 hours a week in a building that has its own chemist, doctor, beds? This is true. You don't have, and for some people that's brilliant and that's what they want to do, and it's perfectly valid. But no, I didn't want to do what I do now when I was, even 20, 21. And that's what I think is important, because things do change and things do work out. I'm lucky the job I have at the minute is quite varied. I get time off to do things like this, which I really love. And I hope that people will hit me some really hard questions, because, I'm just a guy, I'm just a dad. I can do my best. But I'm also involved in some voluntary stuff. I'm a director of a multi-academy trust myself. I'm also involved in the local chamber of commerce, which sounds really, really old fashioned and dull, but it's essentially a business club where businesses get together and support each other. That's a voluntary role. I'm the president there for some reason. It's worked out all right. It's worked out exciting. And for me, I look back at the version of me when I was 16, 17, 18, 20. And there was very few people around just telling you how it is and telling you what to watch out for, what to put in a CV, how important a cover letter is, all those sorts of things, which, I'm happy to help with if I can.
That's some good advice. Thanks for that, Kevin. Remember, guys, get your questions in. We'll get that to Kevin. Now, you mentioned that, you're involved in several other activities. First of all, what's your day-to-day like, and how do you manage to fit in all those different activities? Where do you find the time to do that?
So I'm lucky because I'm at a firm that's big enough that recognizes that I don't just make, lawyers call it fees. It's the same as a seller. Anybody selling stuff has to sell. So, you're targeted on how much money you bring in. My target is a lot lower than another lawyer who doesn't have all these other jobs, because people, first of all, say it's good for the firm to be involved in the community. And if you're the firm that's involved in the community, maybe you'll have a better brand and a better standing, and you might get work back. That's part of it. We've all got bills to pay and, mortgages to pay. But there's also then the fact that you've worked hard for it. And I don't apologize for having worked hard for where I am, but you're still in a privileged position where you can give back. So that's a good way. And some of the partners allow me to do it almost for them because they're doing other things. And so I have a bit of time to do that. A typical day for me probably starts anywhere between 5:30 and 6:45 on social media, which not many lawyers will admit to, but it's on LinkedIn. And anybody that's not on LinkedIn for any job, really, don't treat it like normal social media. It's completely different.
Yeah.
But you should have an account on there, and it is the way forward. And, you've interviewed one of my colleagues before, one of my partners, Tom. He and I have different approaches, but we both agree with the power of social media in a business context. It might be a bit more boring than, Insta or whatever, but it's a very valid tool. So I'll start with that and then get to work. And it could be a day where I'm working on cases, which I've got a court hearing on Monday that's very exciting and I've been fretting about for several days. But I'm ready for that now, so it's fine. Or it could be that I'm dealing with, management, recruitment. Or yesterday I was on a training day with one of my teams. I've got 8 teams that report to me at work. Some days I might have to finish early to go and talk to the school where I'm a director. I pretend to know what I'm talking about because the teachers will all know that governors and academy directors are, from a different planet. So we do our best. And it's a little bit like that with the chamber as well. So it's really, really varied. And I try and get our bear involved as much as possible, if I'm honest with you. You can see he's sat over there on my Lego.
And what's the story with the bear?
Okay, so this guy, this is a Wilson bear cub.
Right.
The actual Wilson bear is about 5 foot.
Right.
He's, a big bear.
Yeah.
And we take him to exhibitions and stuff. But Wilson bear, WB, Wilson Browne. This is the thing.
The official mascot.
He is our official mascot. He's a bit of a handful. Look, I think most law firms, and I'm sorry to any lawyers watching or would-be lawyers watching, or from my perspective, is that most law firms are a bit dull. Most lawyers are a bit dull, and we're people, and we recognise that when people come to see us, it's not the best thing they've ever done. Unless they're excited about buying a house, everything else is really stressful. If you're getting divorced, if you're suing someone, if you're being sued, if you're buying a business, it's a bit exciting, but it's probably quite stressful and expensive. If you're selling a business, it's the same. If you've been injured, all of these things, if you want to make a will, maybe somebody's died, or if the children are in care and you're trying to look after them, if you're the well-meaning grandparents, or, all of these things are very, very stressful. So do you want to see very somber, stern, alien people in suits all the time? Or is it actually all right, when appropriate, to see a human? So that's really what the bear's about.
Well, to be honest, you've answered my next question, but perhaps you could elaborate a little bit on it. What makes a good solicitor? I mean, you've started to touch on that already. The alien in the suit. I can't but help think of Spitting Image. Those of you that watched the recent ones probably know who I'm talking about. But what makes a good lawyer?
So I won't keep doing that with the bear. For me, before you can do all the shiny things and the exciting things and the social media things and mess about with the teddy bear or whatever, you've got to be credible and you've got to be taken seriously. Yes, you have to have the qualifications to go through, and I can talk about the different qualifications if you like, but the main thing is attention to detail, because you can be really smiley and happy, but if you're not on top of the detail, if you're not on top of English, maths, history, these sorts of subjects, when people come to see you, if you're sending out documents that have got spelling errors in, or you've got a comma in the wrong place, if anybody looks me up on LinkedIn, I've got an article about a multi-million-pound error caused by an apostrophe. It is that serious. So detail is the first thing, and if somebody gives you 6 things to do, make sure you do 6 and not 5. And you can bring that right back to any projects you're doing at the moment, any homework that you're doing at the moment, any voluntary stuff at the moment. That's the very first thing I'd say is detail. Second thing is people skills. The guy who worked in the carpet shop, the guy who worked in the bar, that is all relevant to me. Any position of responsibility you get now, and these are things you can start putting on your CV right now, if you're the person that always arranges the nights out, or, you know, when COVID allows or isn't here, the holidays or the weekends away, or any voluntary thing like that, if you're doing something with your friends and you're the one in charge of gathering the money, that's all stuff for the CV, and that's character building for later. So it's detail, it's being with, working with people, it's responsibility. There's loads more, but those are the things that I think I would focus on at the minute.
Yeah, those are very important skills, you know, attention to detail, again, communication with people and responsibility, which answers some of the questions here. Craig was asking, you know, are these transferable skills? And, you know, you mentioned, you know, what you did at Carpet, right? You found that you're using them with Wilson Browne. How have you transferred those skills from your previous roles?
That's a good question, Craig. For me, all experience is relevant, okay? And one thing that you're not taught at law school, because they're too busy teaching the academic, is that a lot of what you're doing is selling. And in many, many businesses, everybody is selling. If you walk in the door of my business, our receptionist is selling to you straight away without even realizing it. So he or she, if they're like this, oh, hello, I'm not tempted to spend much time or money here, thank you. But if they're, oh, you're right, do you want to come in? Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want the Wi-Fi code? This sort of thing. It all starts this subliminal, I'm comfortable here, I'm going to stick around, I like you. And, you know, you'll hear people talk about people buy from people. And if you can do that, you know, in a shop, on the phone, in a bar, in a restaurant, in the supermarket, in any part-time job, that is a valuable skill to build on, absolutely cross-transferable and all really, really relevant. Same with any voluntary experience that you do. Responsibility around money particularly really stands out. You know, a treasurer of a darts club or rowing committee or any of that stuff, chess, anything.
Thanks for answering that. I mean, that hits a lot of the points that we were talking about, transferable skills. And also, you know, again, you know, you might have worked in a shop, but those customer service skills, you can quite easily take them into your career later on. And no time is ever wasted. Keep your questions coming in, guys. You know, we've got lots to get through here. Another question for you is, well, you've really hit on this, you know, tips on being a lawyer. Again, we talked about the transferable skills. I mean, is there any more you could perhaps say on that in terms of, are there any books that people need to read, or is there any anything of that nature that people need to be thinking about?
Okay, so tips to being a lawyer. And I think the first thing is to say, well, do you know what a lawyer is? You know, do you really know what a lawyer does? Let's try and explore that. There's solicitors and there's barristers. And my mum, bless her, used to think that, you know, when you grow up from being a solicitor, you'll be a barrister. And that's not how it works. They're completely different jobs. And typically a barrister is the person that's in court a lot more. So that's a separate skill set. And the solicitor will be the one that does a lot more of the paperwork side behind the desk. That's an easy way to distinguish. I'm going to talk about the solicitor role. The barrister role is very valid as well. From the solicitor point of view, you tend to be either a criminal or a civil. So criminal law, I don't know very much about because I'm not a criminal solicitor, but that for me is a real, you know, I bow down to any criminal solicitor because that's a real vocation. People always talk about, well, how can you act for someone if you know they're guilty? Well, good. You know, good that we know the truth, because then we can put their case forward. There might be good reason for doing what they did, or they might have, you know, a story to put across, or they might have done it, but for a very good cause, or they might just be really, really rotten. But everybody's entitled to their defense, and that's a real strong thing. Everyone's entitled to their best defense under the rule of law. So if that doesn't, if you think, oh, I'd struggle too much with that, or, you know, that area of law doesn't excite me, then there's the other side, the civil, and that's a much wider thing from my point of view. It's like my firm, we don't do any criminal, but there are many, many good firms out there doing criminal law. Then within the civil, You then have what we call contentious, which is basically arguing, going to court and fighting, so any litigation. And then non-contentious, which means, not fighting, so just doing a deal, a transaction, buying, selling a company, this sort of thing. So there's a whole range, and it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to me. I mean, we probably do 86 different things, and even I'm not sure what they all are. So, don't worry about, I don't know what sort of lawyer I want to be, but get an idea of the broad different types. And you can do that. To be honest, you can do that by looking at law firms online. You can do that very easily these days with social media. You can do that by following just the company accounts. You don't even have to follow the individuals. You can see the sorts of things that people are doing. And then you can start to think, well, I don't want to go to university. Is that it then? Can I not be a lawyer if I don't go to university? I know the teachers will probably want me to say everyone has to go to university, but sorry, it's also, they'll agree with me that it's not necessarily right for everybody. I went. I've got loads of staff who didn't. I've got some people who went to university and didn't do a law degree. So there's a whole range of things you can do. You can train on the job. We've got people who are called paralegals who have no formal qualifications. There are some people called paralegals who have formal paralegal qualifications, and they will not have done, typically they've not done A-levels. Some of them have done A-levels and are thinking about going to university. Some have gone to university and maybe done history and decided that none of this was for them, and what can we do? Those sorts of people, we can use their qualifications, whether it's A-levels or degree, and they can do a form of training that's called legal executive. And that's a qualification that you do on the job. It's not a solicitor, it's completely different. You can later cross qualify, but you don't have to go to university. If you have been to university, you get to skip a bit of training, and you don't have to go to law school, and you can still be a solicitor that way. There's even now, would you believe, a 7-year apprenticeship to be a solicitor, which cuts out university and law school. And when you think that, university is so expensive and law school, I finished law school in 1997 with £12,500 debt from that 1 year. There's a lot to be said for these on-the-job routes, even though they take a bit longer. They look after your bank balance, because it took me, with my university debt on top of that, it took me an awful long time, well into my 30s, to have paid all that off, which I didn't know at the beginning. And if I had known it, I might have looked at a different route. But that's not to put anybody off. It's just about being real.
No, that's some excellent advice. So there is various other routes. Yes, university is the traditional way that people do take, but there is other routes. If you've just completed your A levels and you want to go through maybe an apprenticeship route, that's another one you could take. As Kevin's just mentioned, save yourself a bit of money, earn a bit of money. It might take a bit longer to get there, but that's definitely an option. And then obviously, with this other option where you can work your way as a paralegal. So some valuable information. Thank you for sharing that with us. We've got some more questions here. Is there any advice you wished you'd been given when you were younger or when you were just starting out?
I think it's the thing that I started with, which is that it will be all right. You don't have to decide your life forever. Because I've worked, I've tried selling wills in a supermarket, the poor soul stood at a stall. Because you try anything to get a foot in the door, and you still should, you should stick your head up and contact people and be the one that stands out. And again, if we talk about cover letters, I can talk about that. But the advice really would be, don't worry about it. We're here so quickly. I'm going to make myself feel old, but it doesn't seem that long ago to me that I was looking for a training contract after I left law school. And I still remember how difficult it was. And I still remember thinking, what's it all been for? What's it all been worth? And, will it ever happen? Will it ever happen? And there's this thing about, will I ever get there? And, there is necessarily no there, because there's just your job, there's just your career, there's just your journey. And you finish let's say the traditional route. You know, I have my A level, I have my degree, I have my law school, and I have my practicing certificate. Well, that's it, you know, and I'm mid-20s ish when I get this, but that's not there. It's endless. The possibilities are endless, and don't stress about them. That would be the thing, because I was very worried about it. You know, very, if I don't do this, what will mum and dad think, or have I let myself down, or and all of that is just baggage that, you know, one foot in front of the other, like the old tennis player. You know, always look forward. Bjorn Borg said, always look forward. It'll all be all right.
Wow, very inspirational. So, success is not a destination; it's a journey.
100%.
Yeah. Wow.
You
Thank
said
you for
that a
that.
lot. You said that a lot quicker than I did.
But that's basically what you were saying.
Yeah.
So, what are your plans for the future?
Do you know, at the moment, it's tough. You know, there'll be parents and carers of those watching that run businesses that will know this as much as I do. We're in a tough market at the moment. We're in a tough situation. You know, I'm lucky that myself and my immediate family, we have our health, and I'm holding on to that. We're not on any great world domination march. You know, we know our business. We know the geography that we want to work in. We want to get better. I'm happy to grow, because if you don't grow, you stand still. If you stand still, you shrink and, you know, wither away. But I want to make sure that internally my people are looked after and our people are looked after, and that we continue to train them and educate them and reward them, because then they'll stay, and we put a lot of time and effort into them. I want to grow that way, and yeah, just want to keep the firm going and growing, but not for any crazy grand plan reason, really.
Yeah. Thanks again for sharing that. We've got a question here from Joanne, and Joanne's asking, what do you find the most rewarding about your job?
That's a really good question, Joanne. The very easy answer is helping people, and I mean that in a really warm, fuzzy way. But the job I have at the moment, I'm lucky enough to be involved in recruiting and employing people. I'm also unfortunate enough to be the one that has to deliver bad news if we have to let people go. I really like the recruiting, because, you know, you're helping people, and it's a lovely thing. Or when you promote someone, it's a great thing. Or when you've seen someone grow, nothing to do with me, you know, we give people the tools, and if they do it, they do it. That's fantastic when you see people grow, and if you've had the tiniest part involved in that, or you've pushed them to do the course and then they've gone and smashed it, that's fantastic. I've saved small businesses before where they would have gone bust without us. I've seen, you know, I've been taken for a pint down the pub to celebrate with the staff from the factory because we've kept them open. That's great. That is great. The things like this, I think, you know, having the opportunity to do this is really rewarding. Genuinely, I do enjoy it.
Yeah, we've got more questions coming in. Abdullahi's asking, what were your biggest fears? I think that would be
what were or are. Let's go with the first one. So my biggest fear was getting it wrong, making a decision that I would regret forever, and everybody around me was, you know, laser focused. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing that, and I only now realise that half of that was bravado, because they didn't want to pretend to themselves that they weren't sure either.
Yeah. Well, Abdullah, you've heard it there. So another question is, did you see, well, I think we've already answered that one. You didn't see yourself as being a lawyer, but you ended up going into, you know, from different jobs, and then planned happenstance, I think is the term for it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You ended up there. So I think that one answers that one. Yeah, lots of questions coming here, but, you know, we know your time is precious, so we won't keep you too long. Can you tell us where we can get hold of you, where we can learn more about what you do?
So the easiest way to get hold of me is on LinkedIn. If you search my name, Kevin Rogers Solicitor, on LinkedIn, if you look up, I mean, my LinkedIn address is Kevin Rogers Dispute Solver, which I know sounds just horrendous, but it's what I do. You know, I solve problems. That's the best way. And if that's too much to remember, look up Wilson Browne Solicitors and you'll find me on the website. Our website has a load of really up-to-date resources for people considering careers in the law. So you can have a look at that. You've heard enough from me probably, but Amos, I'm in your hands. I'll stay as long as you like. The website has stories of from our current trainees and their background and what their experiences are. So they're probably, you know, perhaps slightly more relevant. I don't know.
Okay, thank you for sharing that again with us. So, I mean, I know that there's lots still coming here. We're getting a lot of people thanking you for your time and everything that you've done. You've clearly inspired so many people just from your story. You remember, guys, you know, it doesn't matter if you're working at Carpet or if you're finding yourself in a security job, there's still an opportunity. Just look at the person sat here whose story is such an incredible story. You know, to be the person that you are today, it's possible for anyone to get there. And, you know, Kevin, you know, you're very inspirational. We thank you for your time today. And I think what I've taken from this today is attention to detail, especially if you want to go into this career. And again, responsibility. You've set out 6 tasks. So do get those 6 tasks done. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
That's all right. Can I add one little thing and be cheeky?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
This is just a quick one. If you're doing a cover letter, when I was young, I got told off from my dad because I had a stack of 40 photocopied, handwritten, generic, I was going to fill in the dear whoever bit on cover letters. And he threw them all in the bin, and he was right. Whatever job you're going for that needs a cover letter, make it targeted, refer to that firm, make it look as if it's the only one place in the world you want to work, and you'll stand out. And there's no reason, really, there's no reason that you can't stand out at all. But that cover letter, there's 2 paragraphs there that says why I'm applying for this job that's right for me, and everything else is irrelevant. That's really important. I just wanted to get that one little message out.
Well, that's huge, because I was going to ask you again, could you leave us with a parting message? But I think that there itself is one for lots of people to take. Remember, those covering letters, write it as though you're writing it specifically to that one company, make it unique, and it just shows that attention to detail again. Well, guys, thank you very much again. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, like this video, and then again, you can also watch these videos at any point here on YouTube, and also keep up the good work that you're doing as well with this week of work experience. Lots of you engaging in so many different activities. And thank you again, Kevin, for your time today.